let's go ahead and get started. Today we are talking about primary greatness, another Stephen Covey book. Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, essentially, I think it can be summed up pretty, like the title's very, very good, right? Because the title's just like, this is what it's about. So, and that's kind of how Stephen Covey rolls, right? His 7 habits were about the 7 habits, and his 8th habit was about the 8th habit, and putting first things first was about putting first things first. So he's very transparent in his titles and writing styles, which is great. But yeah, I kind of enjoyed it. I wanted to start by talking about the 12 levers of success. And then I was just going to ask if there's any of these that sound like they don't belong to you guys, or maybe one that you really agree with.
Cool. Do you want to do an icebreaker, or do you want to just jump right in, or what's your?
Yeah. I figured we did.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I figured the icebreaker is going to be these 12 levers, and then we'll figure out which ones you guys don't like. Okay. And then from there, we'll go and do our intro pitches, and then we'll just talk about the book after that.
Sounds perfect.
Cool. All right, so 12 levers. Integrity, contribution, priority, sacrifice, service, responsibility. That's 6. And the next 6 are loyalty, reciprocity, diversity, learning, teaching, and renewal. So learning, and then teaching, and then renewal. Each one is its own thing. So every single one is one word. Integrity, contribution, priority, sacrifice, service, responsibility, loyalty, reciprocity, diversity, learning, teaching, and renewal.
Right.
So are any of those jump out as like one that shouldn't be on the list to you guys?
What I like about it is I like the order that they're in, because if you're starting a company, you have to start from the beginning, and like the learning, teaching, renewal, that's the end. So, by the time you get to learning, teaching, and renewal, you've got a company that's running, and you're just repeating processes and building and doing all those things. But you can't do any of that until you've been, they're in order of appearance, they're in order of what you have to make sure you've got going on in your company. So I don't know that I would get rid of any of them, unless, like, if you're a brand new company, then you don't have to worry about the last 6, because you've got nothing to reciprocate with, and you've got nothing to teach, and it's all, what I mean?
Yeah, you can't afford to be diverse, right? Like you can't create diversity of thoughts or a diverse staff or anything like that if you're just starting out.
If it's you and you're lonesome, you and the mouse in your pocket that's starting this company, then yeah, you can't really have much diversity. So
I also don't like the word sacrifice, because if it's your passion to do it, there's no sacrifice, you're enjoying it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I agree with that one. I think sacrifice is kind of it's a tough one. And it's one of the early ones too.
It's a loaded word. But on the other hand, people doing startups, Tylor and Mark, especially,
yeah,
you don't jump into starting a business, and Mickey, you don't start a business unless you are willing to give up a lot of weekends and nights and fun with friends and, all of those other things. It's, there's an opportunity cost to starting a business. And, I think it's a word people don't like because it's almost a negative word, but I think you should be prepared for it, so I don't think it's out of place. I want it to be. I wish it was.
Yeah.
The integrity and contribution are the first, and I see that as I've heard of FPOs, MROs. That's all they're about is trying to raise the bill, find more work. That does it have to be done, or is it a flight safety thing, or is it just you might want to consider it stuff?
Yeah.
And that's what I'm thinking of. My contribution to this is we don't want to only work for the jet guys. I can't forget my background is little airplanes.
Yeah.
And that's a big little airplane, but all the littler ones, we can't forget them. We've got to address their needs and only suggest what is required, or make a difference between this is a required repair. This is airworthy.
Yeah.
This is not airworthy, but it'd be really nice.
Mm-hmm.
And, your autopilot worked, but, the new one is even nicer.
Mm-hmm.
But that's your choice.
Mm-hmm.
You don't make it a requirement. Oh, that's totally out the launch because it can't get any parts for it. That may be true, but does it still work? Okay, maybe we do it next year. Because I want them to come back to me as a return.
Yeah. I know John did this, when he was working for CTG, he got in trouble all the time for advocating for the client instead of advocating for the consulting company. It was like, I work for the client and this is best for the client, even though it doesn't make more consulting fees for the company. I'm going to do this and I'm going to get in trouble doing it, but oh, well.
Well, no, but we got to have the long view too.
Yeah.
We don't want to piss these guys off so they won't come back.
Yeah.
We want them to be, a long-term customer.
Yeah.
And, we're not working with tens of thousands of customers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's a target market.
Mm-hmm.
The people that you have, you got to make sure that you're not burning them. Definitely.
Yeah, because it gets around. If we go after the Cirrus customers, they talk. They get together. There was 200 of them in Scottsdale.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all sitting around the table yakking about this place and that place. And this guy, tried to boost the repair up and made something I didn't think was required. Okay.
Mm-hmm. That's one of the things I really like about the aviation industry is that shysters don't live long. They kind of get run out of town on a rail, it's because everybody talks. And everything is so momentous, everything that somebody has done is a huge dollar amount, repair. So it's not like a small purchase or anything. And so everybody's going to talk about it before, during, and after it's done.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So that's or before, during, and after they have an appraisal done, or before, during, or after they have marketing done, they talk about it to each other. And that is a big thing. I don't know if it's probably true in the tutoring world too, because, a lot of these kids talk to, and they're not kids. A lot of these young people talk to each other.
For sure. Absolutely. I mean, the world's smaller than it's ever been. So you can hear about everybody all the time.
Yeah.
You want to find, if you were to look for a reason not to work with someone, you will find it for sure. And I think that's in any field.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. So that's the easy part, right? Like that's, if you don't trust them, you can find a reason to pull out pretty quick. So
yeah.
Cool. Well, let's start with intros. My name is Mickey Gamonal. I am ASVAB Domination with Gamonal Tutors. You can find me at asvabdomination.com. Go ahead, Mom.
Paula Williams, ABCI. We help aviation companies sell more of their products and services.
John Williams, David, and I work for her doing back-end stuff around here.
And doing an amazing job.
Tyler Hall, Shrike Eagle Aviation. We want to be a new MRO, Part 145 in San Antonio and San Las Cruces, New Mexico.
Go ahead, Mark.
Mark Parry, Global Aircraft Group, Craft Appraisals, Certified Use PAP Appraisals, IRS Appraisals, Museum Appraisals, Expert Witness, and well, that's it for now. few other
Right. The list gets longer the more you think about it, I'm sure.
convictions and also now accident investigation appraisals.
Cool. Excellent. Hey, Debbie, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. You're looking good. I'm happy you're here. I like your background. That's pretty
Oh, thank you. My blurred background.
Nice glasses.
Thank you.
I almost wore glasses today. I had the contact lens issues.
So yeah, we're talking about primary greatness, but Debbie, if you want to just say kind of your opening pitch, right? Who you are and what you do.
I'm Debbie Murphy. I'm the Vice President of Marketing and Digital Strategy for Jet Brokers. And we are an aircraft sales firm that buys and sells jets and turboprops.
Perfect. Awesome. Cool. And so yeah, back to the book. We're talking about the Primary Greatness book by Stephen Covey. The 12 levers of success were pretty good. I got one thing that I want to talk about, and then I'll just let everybody kind of take over. I know Mom is really familiar with Stephen Covey, as far as you worked for them back in the day, right? Or Franklin Covey, was it?
Yeah, it was back before it was Franklin Covey. It used to be Franklin Quest. And then Stephen Covey bought Franklin Quest and it became Franklin Covey. And I was a consultant for them and I taught classes and did all this stuff. I know we used to have to do our timesheets using the 4-part quadrant, So, I mean, it's just super embedded in the company culture there.
Cool. Perfect. So yeah, you're probably like pulling your hair out. You're ready to talk about this topic, I'm sure, because you know it better than anybody else. So that makes perfect sense. But one thing that I wanted to talk about was the idea of the title, right, is primary greatness. And so he talks about primary greatness versus secondary greatness. Primary greatness is going to be all of your internal battles, right? So ensuring that you're living with integrity, ensuring that you're waking up on time and not eating too many donuts. Like, it sounded very, very personal, very, very personal as far as like what you should do with your time. But secondary greatness is what we as a culture, or we as almost humankind, is chasing, which is to be financially successful, have good family times, and like all of the outward appearances of success. And so he talks about the dichotomy of those two ideas. And that really sums up the book in a lot of ways. Like, that whole idea is kind of the thread that he tries to weave through this. Of course, this was published after he died, so it may not go exactly as he planned. I mean, he could have thought there were only 10 levers or something like that. But it definitely comes back to that primary greatness over and over and over again. And that's kind of like the root of all problems, right? Is that we as people achieve things primarily, and we have these personal goals, but deep down we hope for that secondary greatness. Is that about right, Mom? Is that what you got from it as well?
Yeah, I think so. It's I think a lot of people kind of cringe when I do a book like this, because it's like, no, I want to know what buttons I should push to get better results on Facebook, right? This is not that. This is not surface, at all. But I think a lot of people discount the importance of having your mind right, because if you do every single thing right, you can still screw everything up and nobody's going to buy from you. And they're all going to, feel like you're a shady character or whatever, even if you're just nervous about sales or whatever, because your mind's not right, So this is so hard to do. And everybody thinks they know it and everybody thinks they're doing it. But every time I go back to one of these, I go, oh my God, I let that slip. I need to think about this more, and I need to get rid of some more junk in my head that's accumulated since the last time I've, read a book like this. So, that's my takeaway, but.
Nice. That's cool. Yeah. Anybody else? Does anybody else have any thoughts on the book?
I like the really the last chapter where he sums everything up, where how important it is to have balance in your life, to take care of your health, your sleep, family, just it's a good reminder, and I really got a lot out of that specifically. Today, out of balance and put too much time or not, too much time in one area, and then the other side, the other stuff gets neglected.
Yeah. We've all been there.
Well, in what's going on right now, I mean, it's something that hit me a couple of years ago. I was just too heavy, too fat, and issues started coming along as I got older. So I had to do some things, personally, just to, stay ahead of it all. But now here we are in this, pandemic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, I like your idea. You got to balance, sometimes you got to go take a walk, Stop.
That's why you have this. Tells you to stand up.
Oh, yeah, I got one too.
I love it. We're all
Apple buddies. We can start doing a fitness challenge. That'll be fun.
Mine went off last night in the middle of the night. Said,
I know. Okay. It's like, I'm not standing up right now. Sorry.
I'm in the middle of a meeting. Dang it. What I love is when you're in the middle of a workout and it says, "Are you done with your workout?" And you're like, "No, I just
should I be
down to do sit-ups, but it thinks I'm taking a break."
That's
okay,
funny.
Get after it. No, it's funny. Anyway, yeah, we had Dan Kennedy ran a bunch of groups that we were in, probably one of the most successful marketers of the 2000s, 99s or 90s, 80s, and so on. And he hit a wall, and actually, he had diabetes for a long time, but he was making, millions. And I mean, he publishes his taxes and everything else, so you can see all this. But super, super, super successful. And he totally hit a wall. He lost the sight in one eye, ended up in the hospital for months because he was working so hard, and he had to really, really take a step back. And, God bless him, he's coming back, and he's actually doing some office hours with people, and he's doing some things like that. But, it's just a reminder, no matter how successful you are and no matter how much money you make, that isn't all there is, That's,
yeah, there's a lot more out there.
Yeah, but
staying alive.
It's easy to get caught up if you really like what you're doing.
Yeah.
For sure.
Right.
That's probably the best part of the book for me, was where he talks about the passion, right? Because just like you said in the beginning, John, like if you're passionate about what you're doing, it doesn't really feel like a sacrifice. And so even with that being a lever of success, the passion doesn't feel like it's overtaking your work-life balance. It feels like it's part of your congruence, right? Which is another key word of the Covey thing, right? Another Covey buzzword. But being in congruence is when everything is in alignment, pointing you towards that direction or that ultimate goal of making your contribution and your mark on the world. And this is not about Facebook clicks. Like that part is not at all about like how many ad clicks you can get or conversion rates or anything. But like, I think when you're in that mode of like, I gotta do this to leave my mark, you can get caught up in those secondary things. I think they're even more appealing oftentimes. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I'm not exactly sure how I would combat that. But yeah, I thought that was a really interesting point as far as like chasing your passion.
Yeah. Well, and another thing that we've talked about, and another thing that we talk about all the time in the sales course, is you reward behavior. You don't reward outcomes, right? So you don't control the outcomes. So, I mean, you can be making 20 sales calls a day and not be making any sales. And so, you can go through days and days and days like that. You have to reward yourself for making those 20 calls or whatever it is that is your goal that day. And, so I'll go buy a plant or something. I mean, poor John, I've got, the whole house is full of plants, but, I have to reward myself for activity, not for outcomes. Because if you start rewarding yourself for outcomes and saying, next time I get a client, then I'll buy this or whatever, then you put a lot of pressure on yourself. And then that comes across in your voice. It comes across in everything that you do.
It's not just plants.
I buy shoes.
Well, sometimes I've seen she's been working a lot. I just say, hold it. We're going out for dinner.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, a lot of us get into that trap of not rewarding our behavior, and especially with our people, you have to reward behavior, not outcomes. And that's really hard to do because sometimes the money comes from outcomes.
For sure.
Yeah.
No, it's
so it's primary, secondary. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, I was stuck on that myself for a while. What did you think, Debbie? I don't know if you got to read this one or.
I read half of it, so I didn't get to the end. So I must admit, I like how it makes you consider the personal so deeply, which I think is always a good place to start, to reevaluate yourself, even just once a year or whatever. It's kind of good to come up to, the end of the year and consider, like, what would you change, or are you on the right path? It's a good book for that.
Right.
Well, Thanksgiving is kind of one of those times.
Yes.
Of giving thanks to others. In my own case, I always say something at church on this, in the service, but, thank those around me for the support and everything that has come.
Yeah.
So I've been through some rough times in the last year, but I had a very good set of friends and family around me, and I survived and flourished, I hope.
Yeah.
Gratitude is a good thing to consider. For sure.
Yeah.
It's
I think so too. Gratitude's actually not on these 12 layers.
Maybe it should be. Maybe
I think so.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, if he would have wrote it himself, maybe, right? Maybe it's because of all of his ghostwriting.
Well, you should be grateful for your customers and what they bring to you. And I've always been, more of a consultative selling kind of a thing, rather than saying, buy this. Well, there's choices. This is A, and this is B, and this is C. This is required because it's an airworthiness thing, and this may not be required.
Yeah.
But it's really nice to have. We're in the avionics world. There's some really trick, neat, cool stuff, but it may not be in the budget.
Yeah.
Right. And nobody, I think we kind of lose the track of the fact that nobody succeeds alone. Even if you are a sole proprietorship, you've got customers, you've got suppliers, you've got everything else. If you didn't, you wouldn't be in business. You cannot do this in a room by yourself. This is not, having somebody just push work under the door and you do it. This isn't that kind of world, in aviation especially, and being an entrepreneur especially.
Sure.
I mean, without Mark and Tylor and John and Debbie and Mickey, there would be no ABCI, and 30 other people. But yeah, I mean, absolutely, we totally get that, and I think that might be one thing that, now that I'm thinking about it, that really is not what this book is really, really self-centered, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean it. This is about how to work on yourself. To be the kind of person that you need to be to get where you want to get. So, I mean, everybody is always thinking about, how do I get from here to there? They're not thinking about, what do I have to change in order to get from here to there? Do I need to have more confidence? Do I need to have more skills? Do I need to get up earlier? Do I need to have more time? Do I need to organize things differently? Do I need, what tools do I need? And what skills do I need? Do I need to stop spending all my emotions on my last client that I didn't like, and push forward into clients that I do, that's so hard to do.
It doesn't talk as much about that sort of thing. It says contribution as the second lever. Yeah. But contribution and gratitude are very different. So I think that's a good point.
Right.
One thing that I liked, just to bring it back to what Debbie was talking about with the personalization, where it's a little more personal, is the self-affirmations. I have read a ton of these different things. Like I've read "You are a badass with money" and "Think like a monk" and like all sorts of like crazy stuff as far as affirmations go. And I thought this was one of the best self-affirmation like policies of like, take what sucks, like take what you hate doing and think about why you should appreciate hating it, or why you should appreciate having to do it, or something like that. Yeah. And I'd never seen it broken down like that. And so I was like, I am so lucky that I get to like freak out over, where my next client is coming from, and you break it down into a sentence where it makes sense, and I thought that was like a really, really powerful thing.
Don't they actually say that you're reprogramming the way you think about it by the affirmations, which is true?
Like emotional judo, right?
Yeah, right.
For sure. If you think of all of the negative energy, right? Think of everything that saps your energy in your work. Mm-hmm. And then if you can flip that, right, into like, okay, I get to do this, or something like along those lines, it changes everything. Because now what you hated, now the thing that was the worst part of your job is now something that you're showing gratitude for. And just like you said, Debbie, like it changes your neurobiology. So all of a sudden it changes, like all of a sudden you like cauliflower, like it completely, it doesn't make sense, but it sounds like that's what they're telling.
I think it might actually help you cope with figuring out how to conquer it, actually. Yeah. By flipping the way you think about it. Instead of having it be your nemesis. Yeah. It's something you're up for the challenge for. Emotionally, at least.
We had a come to Jesus meeting with a flight school, where their salespeople hated making sales calls, and it was just like, gosh darn it, you have leads, you have good qualified leads with entire paragraphs about why they want to be a student here, you should be happy about this. And, flipping that on its head and going, okay, not every flight school has leads coming in. We should be happy about this. It's better than just making cold calls, but I still hate making phone calls. But, we had to spend, how long did we spend, John? Like weeks?
No, months. A long time.
Right, exactly. To get them to the point where they were appreciative of the leads and, really going after them from a point of gratitude, not from a point of cynicism, because everybody wants a scholarship and everybody thinks it costs too much and that's just, human nature, but you can't be upset about it and you can't dwell on it. You have to dwell on what's positive about this. This many people want to come to our school.
Which could keep it in business and make it a bigger success or whatever it is. So you have a continued job.
Right. Yeah. And, for salespeople, these people pay your bonuses, you get a commission for every one of these that you turn, so you should be so happy about these leads, but they were, pretty grouchy for a while. And I think it's just a state where somebody's grousing, and especially when you got a group of people that are grousing to each other. And
I think it occurs to me that they were probably order takers to start with because times were good.
Uh-huh.
And then they converted to having to make sales, didn't know how, didn't want to. Too hard.
Probably didn't have the training for it.
Yeah.
Probably.
They needed you all to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Probably.
Yeah, that's true. They weren't thinking like entrepreneurs. So, that's cool. But yeah, that's the emotional judo, that you really have to do to yourself. I think sometimes about the things that you don't like, and think, I'm so happy that I have to wash the dishes because I had people come over and mess up my house, and I'm really happy that they did. So this is great,
Yeah, the gratitude part is so easy to talk about. It's just so hard to maintain,
Yeah.
Like I think it's a very human thing to want more. And so it's so hard to be stoked that you have to do the dishes. It's just so difficult. Because one more thing you got to do.
Yeah.
One other thing that I liked a lot was the parents of virtues. So there's the mother and the father of virtues. And the mother of virtues is considered humility, while the father of virtues is considered courage. I thought that was kind of insightful as far as where all of your virtues will come from. So he really tries to like break things down into simpler umbrellas. It seems like this covers all of this quadrant, and then this is underneath that. And it sounded like at the very top, he has humility and courage as like the parents of virtues. Which I thought was pretty good.
Yeah. And just about anybody, that you can think of, any celebrity or anybody in your company or myself, and I guess this is really something you have to apply to yourself. Whenever I'm having trouble, it's because I am either lacking in humility or because I'm lacking in courage. One of the two.
You lacking humility? Very good thought.
No, I feel that. I definitely oscillate between the two too. Like it's either I'm scared or I'm afraid, and I'm usually afraid to be scared, right? So it gets pretty tough at that point.
So what's the difference between being afraid and being scared?
I guess that's true, right?
Yeah.
I think afraid is humility. I thought in my head, I thought it was humility. I don't know. Go figure.
Yeah, no, that's cool. How funny. You guys used this in the military, didn't you? Some Franklin Covey, not necessarily this book, of course, but.
We used Speed of Trust for the marriage counseling. So there was a free marriage counseling thing for the military, and we did Speed of Trust, which is another Covey classic. So.
A lot of the same concepts and things like that. But I just thought it was cool that the military is using it because it's not just squishy, girly, goofy, head stuff,
Yeah.
it is.
Well, he's a very no nonsense guy. Like he like when you're reading this book, he's not about the woo woo at all. Like he does not believe in energies and karmas and dharmas. I mean, he might, but he doesn't. He definitely doesn't come through. That doesn't come through. It seems very military, honestly, very to the point.
Yeah.
Like, figure out what you want. This is how you go there, like A to B type thinking. So, what about anybody else? Did anybody else have any thoughts from the book or anything?
Did you find anything in the book? I'm sorry, I haven't read it. That may help the veterans with the PTSD issues?
Oh, there's a good question.
Or have you had any experience, in working with people coming out of the military, getting back into civilian life?
For sure. I mean, so I've been listening to Think Like a Monk lately. So I'm like, it's really hard to separate because that's very like trauma focused, that entire book. But in terms of this book, I think because like Mom said, it's so personal. I think it's very cool in regards to trauma is something that you go through. And I think one of the hard things is that this book doesn't identify like a community of people. And I think that's probably one of the most important things for trauma survivors is that communal feeling. In the military, one of the biggest problems is that I think people who are survivors of trauma try to own it, right? And just like own it, right? Like and grit, like go through it, right? And I think
like that's SEAL training, they're in that same mode.
Right. Yeah. They get that drill sergeant mentality of like, I got told that I can handle this. And I think that's one of the reasons, like, I think that maybe the virtue of humility might be the most helpful thing there. But again, I think it might be too personal. I don't know if this book would be as helpful for PTSD, in my opinion. But I'm definitely open to any.
Well, especially, I would think upon having to work on yourself so much, when in that case, you might actually need to connect.
Yeah.
to work on yourself rather than by, I don't know.
By
I don't
yourself.
know if it's
Yeah.
valid here, but when I was called up for Desert Storm, my job was to make sure the guys coming back had all of the stuff needed so they could go back home. And to that end, we had 5 days to get it processed in from the field, get everything done, processed out so they could go home. And one particular day, because we did this in gymnasiums, we did them by the hundreds. And you had these PAs all the way around. And guy came up to me and said, Chief, he said, they told so-and-so over here to go see his doctor at home, and he's got shrapnel sticking out of his head. And I said, oh, okay. So I got him a little stool, stood over by and said, attention, processing is stopped right now. Come back tomorrow. I'm sorry, you're going to be delayed today. And I gathered up all the paperwork. And by the time I did that, it was 9 o'clock at night. And I walked over and I talked to the hospital commander. I just walked in unannounced. And he said, what can I do for you, Chief? And I told him what was going on. He said, you're seriously going to read the documentation? I put 4 inches of paper on his desk. And he looked at a few of them. He said, Chief, he said, I'm having a staff meeting here in 10 minutes. We'll get back to you tomorrow. I said, sir? I said, it's 9:15. I said, I'm having a staff meeting in 10 minutes. Well,
This is the military after all.
Yeah.
the next day, a couple of things happened. First thing was early in the morning, I got an 05, a lieutenant colonel, gave me a call and said, Chief, this isn't the way we do things. He said, you come to me instead of him. So this doesn't work. I said, really? You're calling me, aren't you?
Mhm.
And then the second thing was I went back in to the processing center and things were going on. And when I walked in, somebody said, hail, Chief. Everybody started applauding. I said, wait, whoa, what's going on? Well, they'd taken care of all that stuff. They all had doctor's appointments and go and see right here locally what they're supposed to do, seeing counselors and everything else.
So they weren't trying to get away with crap and just get people through.
The majority of people that do that are looking for government, to do what I did down there, are looking for government jobs and are done. And I wasn't. Our whole unit, we didn't care. We were playing by the rules. And we didn't care what anybody else did.
And you didn't care about getting a general out of whatever at 9 p.m. or whatever.
No.
Yeah, that's
We
cool.
did, we did what it took to do right for the soldier. And as long as you do that, I think most of them will come out just fine.
Yeah. I think, I can't speak to PTSD at all, but one thing that I think is really helpful for getting over things, whatever those things are, is the space between stimulus and response. And I talk about that kind of tangentially in this book. There's more of it in the 7 Habits. But when somebody does something, or when something has happened, or you have, and John, you can tell me if I need to cut this part out. John has tinnitus, and he ignores it. But he can't solve this problem. The only thing he can solve is what to do about it. And I think if you can not fight it, you just go, okay, this is what it is. We're moving forward. We move on, and this, I'm not going to let it drive me crazy. Like a lot of people who have tinnitus, it gives them headaches and they're struggling against it. But if you just sort of move with it, go with it, live with it, that's just kind of the difference between stimulus and response. You can't control the stimulus, but you can control the response.
It's like a line, right?
Yeah.
You're over here, you adapt and overcome, and over here, it's a lot of people commit suicide because of it. So my choice is adapt and overcome. When I went to get my hearing aids, they did that test, and the guy said, my God, you got tinnitus so bad, how do you put up with it? I said, how can you not? He told me statistically, people that survive this are rare
Well,
that have it as bad as I do. I said, well, I never even thought about it.
Right. So, they did this hearing test. It's really cool. They did this wall, where he can't see my face, and I just had to read this list of words like bread and house. And I mean, just words that had nothing to do with each other. He got 95% of them wrong. And, I was just absolutely shocked because we actually do communicate most of the time kind of okay. So, it's just, he's overcome it. He's adapted. And he just like, well, I didn't have a choice. This is what I have to do. But he's not trying to fight it. And I think that's the difference, where he's not spending any energy fighting it. He's just spending the energy lip reading, and he didn't even know he was doing it. And I didn't even know he was doing it.
She just discovered I really do listen to her.
in spite of some pretty big challenges. I mean, that's pretty significant challenge. That's wild.
It is wild. And my tinnitus is exactly my tone of voice. His tinnitus is exactly my tone of voice, which is, you look at a graph of both of those sound waves and they're almost identical. So I didn't know that until recently. So anyway. Go ahead, Mark. I'm sorry.
I have that in my left ear, and it's the same frequency as the Challenger business jet hydraulic pumps.
Wow.
Like the hydraulic pump pitch. My left ear, but it doesn't sound as bad as John's. And
well, I was flying helicopter. It was a hydraulic pump in the helicopters, and we didn't have sound insulated helmets for years and years and years.
Yeah, I think that's what part of what causes that. Those high frequency, it literally burns that out, that frequency or something. Because I got away from the challenge, when I switched careers, it does get better. But anyway, getting back to the Hovey book, I don't really see that as a necessarily help for PTSD type stuff. I mean, he is from the veterans and stuff, and people I've known myself as, we all get a little bit of may have PTSD, car accidents, whatever. What really I found is, especially with a veteran, I'll never ask them or get them to try to talk about it, because people with true PTSD, it will most tends to trigger the whole episode all over again. And they start reliving it. So it's really hard for special combat PTSD survivors to talk about it. And then, but this AMDR, rapid eye movement treatment, really works well for a lot of PTSD. Anyway, we're on a separate subject, but
no, that's cool. That answers the question. But
and he's kind of like the modern Dale Carnegie to me.
Mm-hmm.
What's his name?
What's that?
What was the name of the guy?
The treatment for PTSD?
No, you're the modern Dale Carnegie.
Stephen Covey.
Oh, Stephen Covey.
Okay,
oh,
yeah, I can see that.
Huh. That's cool.
Dale Carnegie 30-something years ago, and it was really good. I still have some of the books kicking around.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I bought my kids some of his books, The 7 Habits for a Successful Teenager.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I really respect the guy.
Yeah.
Going back to what Debbie said, you have to evaluate some periodically if you're on the path. And staying on that path is not always the easy thing.
Your path may change. You may not, so you may have to evaluate what your path is too, is the other thing.
Exactly.
And sometimes it takes courage and sometimes it takes humility.
Yes, probably both.
Yeah. That's for sure.
Paula made a good point about that flight department with the sales calls, and that is literally my Achilles heel, is making these doggone calls.
Oh, they're mine too. Believe me. I mean, I use that as an example, complaining about other people who whine about sales calls. I whine about sales calls. So, that's.
I absolutely
yeah.
hate it.
Mm-hmm.
Some way, I don't know, focus like 2 hours a day, and I like that rewards idea.
Yeah.
And follow up on sales calls.
Do you do them like on a particular day of the week, or how do you make yourself do them?
I'm failing miserably at it. Marketing stuff, and even when I was doing aircraft sales, I hated doing the cold calling, and I was always trying to come up with a marketing way to at least drive the call to me.
Mm-hmm.
I had where I wasn't just shooting in the dark.
Mm-hmm.
And so the marketing that we've put together has now narrowed down what I need to do for sales calls, and I just need to figure out a way to make it fun.
Make it more fun for yourself.
Something.
Yeah.
I just have to have discipline. I don't need to go rent an office. What? And just literally say, okay, I'm doing sales calls from 9 to 11.
Yeah.
Or that. And get that discipline where I just have to. I mean, I'm going to do this for a living. It's just, unfortunately.
Yeah. Sometimes it's a carrot, sometimes it's a stick. Mine was I have to learn to do sales calls, or I have to go back and get a job. And
that's a carrot and a stick,
right? It certainly is.
And then that job will tell you to make sales calls.
Exactly.
Yeah. There you go.
Well, it's funny that sales calls is like the trouble that everybody has, because that's really like legitimately what my self-affirmation was thinking about, I am so lucky that I get to talk to these people who don't want to give me any money, but do want better lives for themselves. And like trying to say it in a way that, there's a way. I mean, for Mark, for everybody who does sales calls, there's definitely a way. Obviously, you're not a shyster. You're not trying to take their money and leave them high and dry. So there is definitely a way to say it to yourself, because it really is, like Debbie said, it's about rewiring it for yourself. There's a way to tell yourself that this call is helping people, and it's you like literally doing your job. It's doing what you love to do. It's just the part that right now is hardwired as this part sucks. And that's I'm right there with you. Like I am not loving sales calls at all.
I always think of my dad, who founded our company, who loved to do sales calls. I am not kidding you.
Your dad
he enjoyed himself doing sales.
Yeah, but he
had the best time.
He probably did it in such a fashion that he was just talking and having a good time with the guy, and the guy would say, yeah, well, how do I make this happen? Because he couldn't get a credit card number.
Yeah, well, he used to sell them jets, or first he started selling avionics, and he sold maintenance. Yeah. He built relationships with people.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you have those kind of calls that you can do that, but if you can, you might as well, because likely you're going to be calling them again. you know.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, who was it, Paula, that said that your first sales call is to build a relationship?
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's like the 20th call usually, especially in business to business or aviation, especially. Oh, yeah. So you don't think of it as a sales call. Think of it as an expanding my network call. Hi there. I understand you're in the business. I want to know more about what you do.
A typical number is you're never going to close anything until the 12th call or more.
That's right.
So you can't expect to on the first.
That first call is just to say, "Hi, I'm Tylor Hall, and what do you do?"
Yeah.
But they need your service now. That's the thing, right?
They
The
do.
reason you're calling them is because they need your
Yeah.
service now.
Yeah.
You just got to convince. It's tough. It's like for me,
Right.
it's tough. I think if you have a longer sales process, like it's cool to call back over and over again and make that kind of friend. But I just got a client back that I had 6 months ago, and I haven't seen this kid in a half a year. But he
Congratulations.
came back, and it came from exactly what Debbie's talking about, where he's part of my network, right? Like I'm checking in, seeing how everything's going, and that's actually really insightful.
They could also refer you to somebody else if they really like you.
Mm-hmm.
Is the other thing. You never know.
And the 12th call is not something that's just aviation. I mean, we had a lady out here trying to sell us drapes. And we got talking about sales. I said, yeah. I said, typically it takes at least 12 contacts before you even get to, And she said, no, it doesn't. She blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, did all these contacts before you got out here. When she left in a huff and never did call back.
And she was on about the ninth contact, but we never ended up buying drapes from her because we never finished. But anyway, we weren't trying to be obnoxious. It just takes that
No,
long.
it was just an observation, because we're in a business.
Right.
Sweet. Well,
Yeah,
I think
that's what you do.
Yeah. No, I think that's good. I think that's a good point. Does anybody have any final words on the book? I want to make sure that everybody gets to speak there. We're all good. Okay, cool. My name is Mickey Gamonal. I'm with ASVAB Domination at Gamonal Tutors. You can find me at asvabdomination.com.
Paula Williams, ABCI. I help aviation companies sell more of their products and services.
John Williams, and what she said, and I just help her out.
Tyler Hall, Strike Eagle Aviation, trying to be a Part 145 maintenance facility. I'd like to ask Mark and Debbie a question, if I could. A product we've been offered to represent is Vision logbooks. They have an FAA-approved blockchain technology to put those logbooks in the cloud, so they never get lost. Is this something that your customers need?
I don't directly deal with our customers. I deal with our sales folks and actually do the marketing campaigns. So I couldn't answer that question directly because I wouldn't know.
What I do is I have a reader. Oh, I don't know if I'm on. Go ahead.
You're on. We can hear you.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if I was on or not.
Yeah, you're on.
I have a scanner, logbook scanner reader that, and I'll just scan when I do an appraisal. I'll scan the logbooks in. But I was looking for that service for my appraisals to see if it was, something viable.
This is an absolute FAA-approved blockchain technology. It's inexpensive. They recently took an order for 200 Gulfstreams.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
It sounds efficient. Yeah.
I do my own scanning, but it would. If you want to send me a link to access that company,
be happy to.
Mm-hmm.
Then when I do an appraisal, I'll say, hey, it'd be great if you had all your logbooks in the cloud. I could remotely do the logbook review, and that would save us both money. So yeah.
Okay.
You should send it to me too. I'll share it with our sales folks.
All right.
See what they think.
Paula, can you give me their email address? Or?
I absolutely can.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Cool.
I will send an email after this.
Yeah.
Mark, I think, Mark and then Debbie. Go ahead. Your name and what you do.
Mark Parry, Global Aircraft Group, certified USPAP aircraft appraisals and expert witness and pre-buy inspections.
Nice.
Debbie Murphy with Jet Brokers. I help our folks buy and sell aircraft.
Sweet.
Standing.
And I didn't skip over you, did I, Tyler? Tyler, did you do your pitch? I don't remember.
Yeah, I did.
Okay, cool.
I asked my question.
I got caught up in blockchain. I feel like blockchain's like the word now that everybody's just like, wait, what?
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Cool.
No, that's cool. And actually, if Larry had been on, he could tell you more about it, but and I'm sure Tylor can as well. So that's a wonderful thing. But I'll make sure you guys get an email about with the link, and then you guys can converse. And also, I think all three of you are in the Facebook group, so you could discuss it there.
Share it there. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool.
I'm going to take a look at my website and then see what you would need to get me on your list.
Okay.
Any services you might need to either oversee a pre-buy or an appraisal that may come up, or any of my other services you might need during your sales process.
Fantastic.
Cool. Awesome. All right, guys. Well, good seeing everybody. We'll see you next time. I think the next one is in 2 weeks.
Yes.
So I hope everybody has a very happy Thanksgiving.
Yes. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Happy
Stay healthy and happy.
We are very thankful for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Go take a walk after dinner. Yeah.
Absolutely.